Everybody's so quiet. All right, well, we are going to be in the book of Numbers tonight. I know everybody loves the book of Numbers, but we're not going to read all the genealogy stuff. We're going to jump into some of the good stories here. Tonight, we're actually going to be talking about the spies going into Canaan. So the 12 spies, and we'll read through that story and kind of see what happened with all of that. And then that's kind of really the thrust of what we're going to be doing tonight. Numbers 13 and 14 is where we're going to be. So would somebody like to open with prayer tonight? And just, I think I've just been running and I feel like I just need a moment to, so would somebody like to open with prayer? Dave?
Father God, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for your word. We thank you for your guidance. We're also thankful that you're using Jeff to speak to us, that you've educated him and helped him in his ministry and the things he's done. And I pray, Father, that you'd open our hearts tonight so that all the things that we hear, Lord, we're able to understand and see things through your eyes, and we're able to grow in our knowledge and in our relationship with you. Father, we love you. We thank you. It's in Christ's name we pray.
Thank you. Amen. All right. So as I said, we're going to be in Numbers 13 and 14, 1 through 38. We're not going to read the very last part of Numbers 14, but those two chapters in the book of Numbers. So it says, "The Lord said to Moses, 'Send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites. For each ancestral tribe send one of its leaders.' So at the Lord's command, Moses sent them out from the desert of Paran. All of them were leaders of the Israelites. These are their names." Now, we are going to get a little list of genealogy here. Not really genealogy. We're going to get a list of 12 names, well, sometimes even their father's names and stuff. But we're going to get this list. These are the spies that were sent. Now, to give you a little bit of kind of running background into this, the Israelites have traveled just a little bit in the desert, and they've made it up to the border of the Promised Land. Now, they haven't been out there 40 years yet. This is still very new to them. And they make it to the border of the Promised Land, and God says, choose one man from each of the 12 tribes, one of its leaders. Send them into the land so you can see how good the land is. And I want you to look at the crops, look at the fields, look at the land, the layout of the land, look at the cities, look at the people, all this kind of stuff. And they were to go in and just basically take a survey and then come back and let everybody know what was going on. That's their job, okay? So we know from reading in Scripture that, again, had they been obedient, their wandering would have been over. This is it. Let's go take the land. Woohoo! Send in 12 spies. Learn the lay of the land. Come back. Let's get everybody mobilized and go take our new home. Not the way it works out. We'll read that. It says, I didn't read that first one. From the tribe of Reuben, Shammua the son of Zakur. From the tribe of Simeon, Shaphat son of Hori. From the tribe of Judah, Caleb son of Jephunneh. From the tribe of Issachar, Igal, son of Joseph. From the tribe of Ephraim, Hosea, the son of Nun. From the tribe of Benjamin, Palti, son of Raphu. From the tribe of Zebulun, Gadiel, son of Sadi. From the tribe of Manasseh, the tribe of Joseph, Gadi, the son of Susi. From the tribe of Dan, Amiel, the son of Gamali. From the tribe of Asher, Sethur, the son of Michael. From the tribe of Naphtali, Nabi, son of I can't make that sound. Vophsi, there we go. From the tribe of Gad, Genuel, the son of Machai. These are the names of the men Moses sent to explore the land. Now, there's going to be a little disclaimer here in parentheses, and it says, Moses gave Hosea, son of Nun, the name Joshua. And so, again, when it's in parentheses, it means it was probably a scribal addition later, and they were kind of explaining it. But it's funny because we see it as Joshua, but there is no J in Hebrew. So it really would have been Yeshua, or Hashua is just about as close to it. But Yeshua, it's the same name, actually, that Jesus had. Joshua and Jesus are the same name. It just depends on how you want to translate them and say them. So anyway, side note and a little footnote here from the scribes. It says, when Moses sent them to explore Canaan, he said, go up through the Negev and on into the hill country. See what the land is like and whether the people who lived there are strong or weak, few or many. What kind of land do they live in? Is it good or bad? What kind of towns do they live in? Are they unwalled or fortified? How is the soil? Is it fertile or poor? Are there trees in it or not? Do your best to bring back some of the fruit of the land. It was the season for the first ripe grapes. So it's a pretty simple exploratory little journey. You 12 guys walk into the land and just see what it is. See the land that I am giving you. See the things that you can inherit here, you're going to inherit. And so just go in and take a look around. Not a big military campaign thing. They're not doing reconnaissance for the battle. They're going in to see the lay of the land and to see what it's all about. Look at how great this place is. It says, so they went up and explored the land from the desert of Zin as far as Rehob toward Lebo Hamath. They went up through the Negev and came to Hebron, where Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the descendants of Anak, lived. Now, the descendants of Anak, we're going to get a little description in here, but the descendants of Anak are giants, the big dudes. The ancestors to like Goliath, okay? So we're going to see a little more description in here as it goes on. It says, Hebron had been built 7 years before Zon in Egypt. When they reached the valley of Eshcol, they cut off the branch bearing a single cluster of grapes. 2 of them carried it on a pole between them, along with some pomegranates and figs. Now, when you get a single cluster of grapes, and it's big enough that it takes 2 guys to carry, that's a heck of a crop. I mean, wow, you talk about a plentiful land. And this is kind of, again, my little side note thing, is it's really amazing when you go to Israel because it is desert, it's dry, it's rocky, it's sandy, it's just, you look out over nothing. But when you go there, it's amazing because if they put water on the land, about anything will grow. It's very fertile land. It's just super, super dry. But they can grow stuff just by putting water on it. And it receives it, and it's got the nutrients, and it's got the stuff to grow really great crops. And so we know that at the time that they went in here, you see they're getting pomegranates and figs and huge clusters of grapes and everything. And the area that they talk about them going up into in the southern Negev area of Israel right now is dry. You're just looking at desert. But in that desert, you will find ancient cities that they've done archaeological excavations and stuff on, and in them they find huge wine presses. Well, why would you build a huge wine press in the middle of the desert? And they find, big olive presses and things like that down there. Well, again, why would you put it way down in the south in the desert if everything's being grown up north? And so it shows us that at one time, this very area that they went into was very fertile. It was very profitable for them. But we also know through reading the rest of the Old Testament and going through it, that the curse of them not obeying God is that there was drought on the land. There wouldn't have been drought if they would have been faithful. God said so. But because of their unfaithfulness, the land also suffered. And that's why that land that looks so arid and so nasty, you get water to it, and things just grow. And so it's amazing because they do these irrigation tubes, and they laser bore holes in the side of this tube, and it drips water. And they laser bore the size of hole they need to drip the amount of water that they need to water the plant that they plant, because they don't waste water. And so if you plant a tree It needs this size hole, and it drips this fast, and this much water over 24 hours, and that's how much that tree needs to grow, and the trees just grow big and lush. If it's a bush, it needs this much water. If it's a crop of some kind, it needs this much water. And they laser drill these to that size. That spot is for that plant. But when they do, they can grow things incredibly. And so we know that the land that they're talking about is archaeologically proven that there was crops there. And so you go down in this desert, and there's terraces. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think I would take the time to terrace desert if there's no reason for it. But if I was planting vineyards, I probably would take the time to do that. And if I was planting crops, I would take the time to do that. So the evidence is there of a very fertile farmland. But you're standing in the desert now, and it's because of the curse that was put on it, because of the disobedience of the Israelites. But when they went in there to look at the land, it was fertile. It was lush. It was green. It had everything. 2 guys to carry 1 bundle of grapes. Man, I don't even want to know what that would cost at, Walmart now. Because I priced grapes the other day and decided I didn't need fruit. So, I don't know what that would have cost. But pomegranates and figs and all these things that are grown in this area that they were in. And they didn't go real far north. They only went up to around Hebron and that area and stuff. And yet that area that is so dry now was just full of vegetation. And it says, that place was called the Valley of Eshcol because of the cluster of grapes the Israelites cut off there. At the end of 40 days, they returned from exploring the land. They came back to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the desert of Paran. And they reported to them and to the whole assembly and showed them the fruit of the land. And the people had to be excited. Man, look at that stuff. We've been out here for a few months eating nothing but quail and manna. Fruit. Oh, look at the fruit. This is awesome. And it says, they gave Moses this account. We went into the land to which you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruit. But the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites live in the Negev. The Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country. And the Canaanites live near the sea and along the Jordan. So they went, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe how beautiful it is. But there's giants that live there. The descendants of Anak. They live there in this land. And the cities they built are huge. They're fortified. There's multiple peoples there. You've got Canaanites and Jebusites and all. I mean, we're not powerful enough. We're not strong enough. I know it looks good. Man, look at the crops. But we're going to get wiped out. Because you see, they looked at it from their own perspective. Me, what am I going to do? Same thing they've been doing in the desert. I'm thirsty. Where am I supposed to get water? I can't get water out here. I can't do this. And God's like, you want water? Here's water. I can get you water. Well, I don't have anything to eat. What am I supposed to do? I might as well just go back to Egypt and die there because you got to be kidding me. I'm out here in the desert. I can't get anything for myself. And God's going, I can provide you manna. I can provide you quail. And God has this covered. And if you remember, he was telling them, he told Eve, at the beginning, that they were going to take this land, and it's not them that are doing it. It's God. I'll drive out the nations before you. They didn't defeat the Egyptians. God did. They didn't lift a finger till it was time to move. They just sat there and God did it all. And yet, when they're confronted with this, they're like, oh, we can't do it. It's too big of an obstacle. I'm not going to move forward. I'm just going to sit right here. God's going, look at the blessings that I'm giving you. Nah, too much work. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to stay here. It says, then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. Caleb is going, we can take this. God will be fighting for us. Let him drive the people out. Let's go do it. Let's do it now. And it says, but the men who had gone up with him said, we can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are. And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land that they had explored. They said, the land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. So we were so small standing against these guys, there's no way we can fight them. They're huge. And Caleb's going, seriously, let's just get this over with. You know, I can be eating grapes for dinner here. Let's go. And they're going, no, we can't do it. We can't do it. Too big of an obstacle. And you know, there's a ton of parallels that can be drawn with this. But I think we have that same thing within us. That when we see obstacles in our way, in our life, there may be things that we feel God is calling us to, or that God is asking us to do, and we can sit back and either answer that, or we can sit back and go, but look at all the things against me. These are all the reasons I can't, rather than this is why I need to, or this is why I should. And it's a lot easier to look at the negative than it is the positive sometime. And that's what they were doing. You know, 10 of these guys went, nope, not a good idea. Not a good idea. Caleb and Joshua were going, let's get in the fight. Let's get up there. God's got this. He's got it taken care of, and we are going to our home. Let's go move in. And the other 10 started spreading it around the whole Israelite community. They're bigger than we are. They're stronger. The cities are too well fortified. We can't fight with the stuff we've got. It's just a futile cause. And they even go on and they say, that night all the men of the community raised their voices and wept aloud. All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron, and the whole assembly said to them, if only we had died in Egypt. What a great line. What are we doing out here, being fed by God and taken care of by God? In men's Bible study on Monday night, we're going through Nehemiah. And Nehemiah gives this account of the Israelites coming out of Egypt. And in that account, we get some more information that we don't actually see in the story in Exodus. And he talks about the fact that not only did they have the pillar of smoke and the pillar of fire, and the pillar of smoke and fire would descend on the tent of meeting with Moses and that kind of stuff. But for those 40 years, God made sure they never went without food, never went without water. Their clothes did not wear out. And get this, their feet didn't even swell. They had the same pair of sandals on for 40 years. And they were walking in hot sand. And they didn't even get a bunion. Nothing. Their feet didn't swell. And their clothes lasted the whole time. Because God provided for them. Now, in this situation, again, we haven't been in the wilderness that long, but God has been providing for them. He brought them out of Egypt. He crossed the Red Sea with them. He brought them into the desert. He gave them manna. He gave them quail. He gave them the law. He gave them water when they needed it. All these different things have happened, and then they went, oh, we can't go in and take that land. Even though God told us to, oh, we surely can't. God's not going to provide that. We can't trust him. Basically, is what they're saying. Because we have to do it ourselves. I think it'd have been better if we just died in Egypt. Really? After all God has done for you? That's your first response? Should have just died in Egypt, got it over with. Because now we're going to have to die out here. It says, if only we had died in Egypt or in this wilderness, why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword? Which that statement should be turned around. Right words, wrong inflection. Because he said, why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword, when they should be saying, why would God bring us this far just to let us fall by the sword? Let's go do this. God has done all this for us up to this point. Why would we die by the sword? Not, no, we're going to die by the sword. And it's one of those things, again, of perception. It's how they're viewing it. And they're viewing it as something they cannot accomplish. And God is saying, I've already done it. Just go get it. And you can ask yourself, why would God bring them to that point just to let them die by the sword? It wouldn't make sense. But they're seeing it as, God brought us here so we can die. That's not good. It says, our wives and our children will be taken as plunder. We're going to lose everything. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt? Let's go back and surrender to the Pharaoh and become slaves again and cry out to God because we're so miserable and because we have to work so hard and because we've been, oppressed all this time. So now that we're free and God is giving us everything we really need and he's presenting this great land before us, let's turn around and go back to Pharaoh. What? Well, at least we knew what we had there. And again, I think that's what we do sometimes in our own lives, is we go back to the sin or we go back to the misery because we know what it is. And we're looking at the promised land going, I don't know. Did you see mosquitoes there? I don't like mosquitoes. What should we do? And so it says, and they said to each other, we should choose a leader and go back to Egypt. Let's just turn around and head back. We'll leave Moses here. Aaron can stay with him. We're going to try and go back. Then Moses and Aaron fell face down in front of the whole Israelite assembly gathered there. Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had explored the land, tore their clothes and said to the entire Israelite assembly, the land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into that land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and will give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will devour them. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them. They are pleading with the people. We have this. God has already won this battle. And the people are going, I don't know. Maybe we should just go back to Egypt. And they're going, please don't do this. Please listen to us. We know that it's a great land and that there are giants in there and big fortified cities, but God has already delivered them into our hands. We just have to take it. But the whole assembly talked about stoning them. We don't like what you're saying. It goes against what we think. I think we'll silence you. Then the glory of the Lord appeared at the tent of meeting to all the Israelites. The Lord said to Moses, how long will these people treat me with contempt? That's really what it boils down to. Is God has said, I'm going to do this for you. And they went, no, you're not. He goes, you calling me a liar? And basically they are. Because God is saying, I'm giving you this. I'll take care of it. You go in. They're going, no, you won't. You can't do this. And so God is saying, why are they treating me with contempt? What have I done to deserve their rebellion against me? Was it because I brought them out of slavery? Was it because I spared their life from Pharaoh's hand? Was it because I brought them through the sea in this miraculous way and I gave them food and I gave them meat and I gave them water and I gave them clothes and we gave them the riches of Egypt? What did I do wrong that they now are looking at me and saying, we don't trust you. We're not going to believe you. We're not going to listen to you. I know you've never let us down, but I don't trust you. And God's going, why are they treating me with this kind of contempt when all I have done is give them everything that they needed, way more than they deserved. And I want to do more for them. I want to bring them into the land, but they're treating me with this contempt. This says, how long will they refuse to believe in me in spite of all the signs that I have performed among them? And I really want to say that we would be different. and I can only speak for myself, and I would hope that I would be different after seeing all the miraculous signs and the wonderful things that God did, and seeing the cloud and the fire right there before us all the time. I would think that I would go, yes, God has got this. But these guys were like, I don't know. Maybe he's really not there. Of course, again, not quite as dramatic as this, but look at the way that God moves in so many people's lives today, and they still deny his existence or still deny that he's moving. I will strike them down with a plague and destroy them. This is God speaking to Moses about Israel. He says, I will strike them down with a plague and destroy them, but I will make you into a nation greater and stronger than they. You're still a descendant of Abraham. I can still work this out. We're just going to do a reset, a hard reset, and I'm going to go back and you're going to start another nation. You're still from Abraham. It's still carrying on that pledge. I'm just getting rid of these stiff-necked people. I should just wipe them out. And in all reality, God would have been justified in doing so. And said, you don't trust me, you don't believe in me, you won't listen to me, you won't follow me, you won't do what I ask you to do. Why shouldn't he wipe them out? He says, I think I might just do that. I'll just send a little plague. We'll start over. And Moses said to the Lord, then the Egyptians will hear about it. By your power you brought these people up from among them. And they will tell the inhabitants of this land about it, and they have already heard that you, Lord, are with these people, and that you, Lord, have been seen face to face, that your cloud stays over them, and that you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. If you put all these people to death, leaving none alive, the nations who have heard this report about you will say, the Lord was not able to bring these people into the land he promised them on oath. So he slaughtered them in the wilderness. Moses goes, but people are going to say you couldn't do it. Now again, this exchange is not anything that God is not aware of. And I really look at these, and I think that it's God giving Moses a chance to defend the people. God already knows what's going to happen. This is not something that God is going, I think I better sit down and think about this. You know, that's not what we're seeing, but that's the interaction that it looks like. But I think God is saying, why shouldn't I just wipe them all out? Why shouldn't I send a plague? And Moses goes, because these are your people. They're valuable to you. You brought them out of Egypt, and if you don't bring them into the promised land, the people are going to say you couldn't do it. God, you have to do this. And I'm thinking that Moses, in the midst of that, also had his own little aha moment and went, oh, these are your people. They're valuable. Oh, maybe we should keep going forward. Because I got a feeling that Moses was about as sick of them as God was by this point. And God's going, what do you really think about these people? And Moses had to say, I need to defend them. I need to lead them. Now may the Lord's strength be displayed, just as you have declared. The Lord is slow to anger, abounding in love, and forgiving sin and rebellion. Yes, he is. People say the God of the Old Testament was just a wrathful, mean God. No. Go back and look at the way the people treated him, and you're going to see an abundance of mercy, an abundance of grace, because he should have just said, I'm sick of you. But he didn't. Then it says, yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation. In accordance with your great love, forgive the sin of these people, just as you have pardoned them from the time that they left Egypt until now. The Lord replied, I have forgiven them as you asked. Nevertheless, as surely as I live and as surely as the glory of the Lord fills the whole earth, not one of those who saw my glory and the signs I performed in Egypt and in the wilderness, but who disobeyed me and tested me 10 times, not one of them will ever see the land I promised on oath to their ancestors. So God says, okay, here's the deal. All the people that saw the miracles in Egypt and the things that I have done, here in the wilderness, none of them are going into the promised land. Caleb, Joshua. That's it. They're the only ones from that first generation that left Egypt that are going to enter into the land. Why? Because when they were sent in to look at the land, they came back and went, we got this. God is bigger than these guys are. Let's go do this. And everybody else whined and griped and complained and wouldn't go in there. And so God gave them the blessing. Aaron dies on the way. He dies in the wilderness. Moses is not allowed to go into the promised land because of his anger and what he does there. So he dies just on the border of it on Mount Nebo. And so God lets him look into the promised land, but not enter the promised land. But Caleb and Joshua went into the land because they took a stand and fought on behalf of God right here against their own people. That's kind of the crazy thing, is the battle against their own people was worse than the battle they would have had against the giants. And they knew it. They couldn't win the fight against the people's minds, but they knew they could defeat the enemy if the people would just go. No one who has treated me with contempt will ever see it. But because my servant Caleb has a different spirit and followed me wholeheartedly, I will bring him into the land he went to, and his descendants will inherit it. Since the Amalekites and the Canaanites are living in the valleys, turn back tomorrow and set out towards the desert along the route to the Red Sea. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, how long will this wicked community grumble against me? I have heard the complaints of these grumbling Israelites. So tell them, as surely as I live, declares the Lord, I will do to you the very thing I heard you say. In this wilderness your bodies will fall. Every one of you 20 years old or more who was counted in the census and who has grumbled against me, not one of you will enter the land I swore with uplifted hand to make your home, except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, son of Nun. He says, you keep saying, God brought us out in the wilderness just to die. We don't like the food. We don't have enough food. Well, God says, here's this. Well, why did he bring us out here just to let us die? God says, I didn't. I'm providing for you. We want meat. Okay, here's quail. He brought us out here just to let us die. No, I provided you meat. We're thirsty. We want water. God brought us out here just to let us die. No. We want to go into the land, but the people are too big and strong. God brought us out here just to die. And so God said, fine. You get your wish. You're all going to die. It's going to take 40 years. But everybody who's 20 years old or older right now, you don't come into the land. You're done. You will die in the wilderness. And so what should have been over for their journey just begins. If they would have listened to Joshua and Caleb, they would have marched right into the land. They would have conquered it. They would have defeated the people there. God would have drove them out before them and gave them the land he promised them. Journey over, everybody settled. But instead, he says, nope. You're not going to go in and follow me and be obedient to me. You keep whining and stuff. You keep saying I brought you out here to die. Okay, your wish is going to come true. You're going to die in the wilderness. Let's go. It says, as far as your children that you said would be taken as plunder, I will bring them in and enjoy the land that you have rejected. But as for you, your bodies will fall in this wilderness. Your children will be shepherds here for 40 years, suffering for your unfaithfulness. Isn't that nice? You not only brought this on yourselves, but your children who should be in there enjoying those big clusters of grapes and the pomegranates, yeah, they're going to be wandering in the desert for 40 years because of your unfaithfulness. They should have been in there living in the cities. Until the last of your bodies lies in the wilderness. For 40 years, 1 year for each of the 40 days you explored the land, you will suffer for your sins and know what it is like to have me against you. I, the Lord, have spoken, and I will surely do these things to this whole wicked community, which is banded together against me. They will meet their end in this wilderness. Here they will die. So it's amazing because God is punishing their wickedness, punishing their disobedience, punishing the fact that they just have contempt for everything that he says. But even in that, there's the mercy and grace of, I'm still going to give you manna. I'm still going to give you quail. I'm still going to give you water. Your clothes are still not going to wear out. Your feet are still not going to swell. You're not going to die from diseases out here. You're going to die of natural causes. You're going to go ahead and do it. So God still had his hand of protection on them, even in their disobedience. But he said, I'm a righteous God, and you will be punished. And the punishment is going to match your sin. And your sin is not annihilation instantly with a plague. It's, you're going to wander around for 40 years, and you're not even going to get into the promised land. Only your children will. So the men Moses had sent to explore the land, who returned and made the whole community grumble against him by spreading a bad report about it. These men who were responsible for spreading the bad report about the land were struck down and died of a plague before the Lord. He says, oh yeah, by the way, you 10, you're going to die now. I've had enough of you. You're done. Because they're the ones who incited the grumbling against God. They're the ones who came back and started this whole mess. It says, of the men who went to explore the land, only Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, survived. So he said, these guys were faithful. They saw the beauty in the land rather than the danger. They saw the blessing that God was giving them. They saw the riches. They saw the milk and honey. They saw the big cities. And instead of going, look at those fortified cities, we'll never be able to take them, Joshua and Caleb looked at them and went, look at those big cities. Nobody will ever come against us. We're going to live there. I want that one. They're making plans. And the other 10 are going, those guys are big. Man, no, those cities, look at those walls. Look at the fortifications. We can't defeat them. And they were right. They couldn't, but God could. Even when they finally get to go into the land after 40 years, they come across and they wind up at the city of Jericho. Jericho was very heavily fortified. There is no way on their own physical prowess that they were going to take that city. So what did God do? He knocked the walls down. He says, oh, the walls are too big? I'll take care of that. The people inside, by the time they got there, were so afraid of the Israelites that they were inside the walls trembling because they'd heard the stories about what God had done for the Israelites. You know what? It mentioned in there, we didn't stop and talk about it too much, but it mentioned when Moses was saying, these people have already heard about what you did to the Egyptians. These people have already talked about the way that you delivered them and the way that you brought them through the Red Sea and the way that you provided for them. They know that a God is with them. They know the God is with them. And so what's really ironic is the 10 spies that came back and were saying, man, there's no way we can go fight against these people. Everybody in the land ahead of them was going, oh man, here come them Israelites. Their God is going to defeat us. We're getting kicked out. So they're probably packing, thinking, we got to go. And the Israelites are standing there just a few miles away, shaking in their own shoes, going, oh, we can't do this. We can't do this. But the battle was already won. God already had the people defeated. The Israelites were just unfaithful, and they didn't want to go forward. All right, questions? Yes, sir.
Do they have any idea just about how many people there was? You know, was there anything that said like 100,000?
Estimate, when we talked about the Exodus, it talked about the number of men, and I think they said 600,000 men. So start figuring wives and children, you're looking at anywhere from probably 1.5 to 2 million people that probably would. Right, right. And by the time you go 40 years, not only were these people's children going into the land because they were under 20 years old, but probably grandchildren, even great-grandchildren were going into the land. So yeah, you had several generations that came up after these people. The nation kept growing. But that initial group, no. So.
Do you think that might be part of the problem because near the beginning coming out of Egypt, they kind of grew up in the desert and they were just taking a hand-me-down version of what God was doing for them. Maybe they just didn't have the phenomenal impact that the elders had as far as how powerful God was and what he could do. Maybe they just didn't have that kind of courage.
Except for these people that were here right now when the spies went in are the ones who came out of Egypt. Now, when they go to take the land later, when they initially do go into the land, that's 40 years later. But with the spies we were talking about tonight, that was just a few months, or about a year into this. So these are still the people. And that's why he said, if you were 20 years of age or older, counted in the census, and came out of Egypt, over the next 40 years, you're all going to die. And your children are going to inherit it. And that's what happened, basically. But yeah, when we do get to the book of Deuteronomy and Moses is talking to the people, that's something that they had to deal with. Was they didn't have any of the people that saw the stuff in Egypt except for the little kids. You had a few of them that were much older now. They're, well, I guess you could be in their 50s or whatever, but they saw it as they came out. But yeah, so he had to kind of talk to them and give them this great little speech. And he says, basically, when you get into the land that you did not earn, you're going to have cities you didn't build, and you're going to drink from wells you didn't dig, and you're going to harvest crops you didn't plant, and you're going to have herds that you did not grow. And when you get in there and you eat and you are satisfied and you forget God, because that's what they did. They got in there and went, look what we did. And God's going, oh, whoa, wait a minute. What are you talking about? Don't you remember our agreement? Our agreement is you continue to worship me and have me as your only God, and I'll continue to pour these blessings out to you. But if you forget that, this is going to go away. And that's what happened to them. That at that time was natural water. From erosion and from evidence in the Negev area, there used to be plenty of water down there, and a lot of green and lush and everything. But then as the rains subsided and they get 2 inches a year now, maybe nothing grows without help. There's just not enough rain down there to do anything. So, but at that time, archaeological evidence would point to that it was natural, that there was a lot of rain and a lot of moisture in the ground and everything. And I, again, looking at Scripture going through, I think Scripture's pretty clear that that was a result of their sinfulness, that the ground was even cursed because of them when they were taken out of there. They blew it. Any other questions or anything? Well, we will say goodbye to those at home.